Hello, I welcome you to another Tuesday teaching. We are continuing what we have been teaching on religion and science, where we keep on asking, where do we have conflicts? And today, I'm going to teach on the part 2. Remember last Tuesday, I taught part 1 of it, but today I'm going to go into part 2 of it. And I need to say this, the religion and science teaching will end by the end of this December, by God's grace, precisely December 26th, because from next year, I won't be doing any teaching now. I've been teaching for the past 2 years online. You could still reach me through our contact number, our business phone, business language's email, and language's business phone. If you want any kind of teaching, you have a PDF, you have one kind of thing. But this channel is now going to focus on our services. We are certified Christian life coach, and we are certified mental health advocates. And also, we are published authors. So we have a lot of books that we want to bring to you. And gradually, we'll be doing that one book, maybe reviewing them one by one so that you can go on Amazon and pick your own. We have arrays and diverse of books. We have religious and theological books. We have science fiction, and we have romantic books if you're romantic. So I'll be going directly now to the teaching of today, which is part 2 of what I started last Tuesday. Don't forget, my name is Dr. Josephine. Where there is conflicts, part 2. There's the same dialectic here as with the evolutionary psychology. Theories incompatible with theistic belief arising, at least in part, out of methodological naturalism. And I remember I mentioned that methodological naturalism in the part 1. Amen. In at least these 2 areas, therefore, there are conflicts between scientific theories and religious belief. In a certain fundamental respect, however, there's this superficial. You know what we are talking about when we say superficial something, there is a conflict between scientific theories and religious beliefs. And in a certain fundamental respect, however, there is superficial. That is, because the theories and claims of evolutionary psychology and historical biblical criticism need not constitute defeaters, even partial defeaters, for those elements of religious belief with which they are incompatible. Even though theism is committed to taking science with great seriousness, and even if it is considered that the theories in question constitute good science. That is precisely because methodological naturalism is taken as a constraining scientific activity. We can see this as follows. As suggested, scientific investigation or inquiry is always conducted against the background of an evidence base, a body of background of knowledge or belief, an essential part of MA. Furthermore, is that this evidence base must not contain propositions entailing the existence of supernatural beings or propositions that are accepted by way of faith. It follows that the evidence base of an adherent of a theistic religion will contain the scientific evidence base as a proper part. It will include all the propositions to be found in scientific evidence base, plus more, perhaps those specific to Christian belief. Now, suppose a given theory, Simon's theory on naturalism, or Wilson's on religion, or some minimalist account of Jesus' life and activity, is in fact proper science, and is indeed the most plausible, scientifically, most satisfactorily, theoretically responds to the evidence, given EBS, the scientific evidence base. This means that from the point of view of EBS, together with current evidence, that theory is the scientifically best or most plausible result. Still, that doesn't automatically give a believer a defeater for those of our beliefs with which the theory is incompatible. That is because EBS is only part of our evidence base, and it can quickly happen that proposition P is the plausible response, given a part of my evidence base together with the current evidence, that P is incompatible with one of the beliefs, and P fails to provide me with a defeater for that belief. I think you understand what I'm trying to say here. For example, suppose I tell you that I saw at the mall yesterday, then concerning part of our total evidence base, a part that includes your knowledge that I told you, your knowledge that I told you, I saw you there together with your knowledge that I have a decent vision, okay? And I'm ordinarily reliable and the like. The right thing to think is that you are the mall. Nevertheless, we may suppose you know perfectly well that you aren't there. You remember you were home till all afternoon thinking about methodological naturalism. Are you saying, I'm telling you a vision? It's not that I physically saw you, but I'm telling you that, oh, I saw you in the mall yesterday. But you knew you were at home. Here, the right thing to think from the perspective of a proper part of your evidence base is that you were at the mall, but this does not give you a defeater for your belief that you are not there. I hope I'm not confusing you. You understand what I'm trying to say here? Let me give another example. We can imagine a renegade group of whimsical physicists proposing to reconstruct physics, refusing to use memory beliefs, or if that is too fantastic, memories of anything more than 1 minute ago. So perhaps something could be done along these lines, but it will be a poor, paltry, truncated, traveling thing. And now suppose that the best theory from this limited evidence base is inconsistent with general relativity. Should that give pause to the more traditional physicists who employ what they know by way of memory as well as what the renegade physicists use? I should think not. So this truncated physics could hardly call into question physics of the fuller variety, and the fact that from a proper part of the scientific evidence base, something inconsistent with general relativity for the case under question. The traditional Christian thinks she knows by faith that Jesus not even is divine, and that he rose from the dead. But she need not be moved by the fact that these propositions are not especially probable on the evidence base to which HBC limits itself. Like, especially one constrained by methodological naturalism, and therefore one that deletes any knowledge or belief dependent upon faith. It's my faith that rests to me to tell me, yeah, I know Jesus Christ is divine. I know he rose from dead. But we are now talking about evidence base, which I can even provide biblically. But the findings of HBC, if findings they are, need not give her a defeater for those of her beliefs which they are incompatible. The point is not that HBC, evolutionary psychology, and other scientific theorizing couldn't in principle be defeaters for Christian belief. That's not what I'm saying. The point is that coming up with theories incompatible, when you come out with theories incompatible with Christian belief, it does not automatically produce such a defeat. Everything depends on the evidence adduced in question and the bearing of that evidence, giving the believer's total evidence base. In the case in question, for example, it may be that given EBS and the relevant database, it is unlikely that Jesus arose from the dead, like some people will say. But people saw him by faith, biblically, scripture-wise. A Christian believes that Jesus arose from the dead. But an atheist will tell you that maybe it is unlikely, or a scientist who needs an evidence base may say it is unlikely that Jesus arose from the dead. But giving an evidence base, including not only EBC, but also believing God together with the specifically Christian beliefs that Jesus is the second person of the Trinity incarnate, and that the New Testament is a reliable source of information on these matters. So, given these things, the proposition that he rose from the dead may not be or at all improbable. Similar consideration will hold, of course, for the other theistic religions and proposed scientific defeaters. Someone might complain that this looks like a recipe for intellectual irresponsibility, for hanging on to the beliefs in the teeth of evidence. Can't a believer always say something like this, no matter what proposed defeater presents itself? Perhaps B, the proposed defeatee is improbable or unlikely concerning part of what I believe she says, but it is certainly not improbable concerning the totality of what I believe. That totality, including, of course, B itself, that can't be right if it were. Every putative defeater could be turned aside this way, and defeat would be impossible. But defeat is not impossible. It sometimes happens that one does acquire a defeater for a belief B by learning that B is improbable concerning some proper subset of one's evidence base. According to the book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 9, God says, I took you from the ends of the earth. From the corners I called you. I said, you are my servant. I have chosen and not rejected you. Someone believe R, the proposition that the earth is a rectangular solid with ends and corners based on this text. Should we have a defeater for this belief when confronted with the scientific evidence, photographs of the earth from space, for example, against it, At any rate, she will have a defeater for R if the rest of her noetic structure is at all like ours. The same goes for someone who holds a pre-Copernican beliefs based on such a text as the earth stands fast, it shall not be moved. Psalm 104, verse 5. Why is there a defeater in some cases, but not others? What makes the difference? Here is a suggestion. Consider some religious belief be incompatible with a deliverance of some current scientific theory. That's why we are talking about conflicts between religion and science. B might be, for example, the belief that Mother Teresa was perfectly rational in behaving in that altruistic fashion. Let the scientific theory in question be Herbert Simon's account of altruism, and let EBS be the believer's evidence base. Our question is whether A, the belief that Simon's theory is proper science and entails the denial of B, is a defeater for B. If you add A to S evidence base, and now the right question for us is this: is B epistemically improbable or unlikely concerning the conjunction of A with EBS? Of course, B itself might initially be a member of EBS, in which case it will certainly not be improbable concerning it. But if that was sufficient for A's not being a defeater of B, however, no member of the evidence base could ever be defeated by a new discovery that can't be right. So let's delete B from EBS. Cut the result of deleting B from S's evidence base. EBS reduced concerning the EBS B-B for short. I have that in my references levy for those of you who have my PDF notes. And now the suggestion, the reduction test for defeat, is that A is a defeater if B is approximately improbable concerning the conjunction of A with EBS-B. Suppose we apply this to the belief that Mother Teresa was rational in behaving altruistically, with A being the belief that Simon's theory of altruism is good science and is incompatible with B. So let's suppose that C is a Christian believer, that is, S is a Christian believer. To apply the reduction test, we must ask whether B is improbable concerning the conjunction of A with EBS-B. And the answer, I should think, is that B is not improbable concerning that conjunction, EBS-B. Includes the empirical evidence, whatever it is, that appealed to Simon, but also the proposition that we human beings have been created by God and created in his image, along with the rest of the main lines of the Christian story. Concerning the conjunction of A with that body of propositions, it is not likely that if Mother Teresa had been more rational and smarter, she would have acted so as to increase her reproductive fitness rather than live altruistically. Hence, on the proposed reduction test, the fact that Simon's theory is good science and it's more likely than not concerning the scientific evidence base, the fact does not give us a defeater for what she thinks about Mother Teresa. Considered on the other hand, the belief B that the earth has corners and edges and the photographic evidence against that belief. Here, possibly, the reduction test gives the result that the latter is a defeater of 4B. True, a Christian might think that the Bible is infallible, since God is his ultimate author. But of course, that leaves the question of what God intends to teach in the passage in question. So the reduction test gives sensible results in these two cases. It can be right in general, however, but more exactly, it is right only on certain fundamental assumptions the believer is likely to reject. For it might be clearly enough that B has a lot of warrant on his own. Warrant he doesn't get from the other members of EBS, or indeed any other propositions. B may be basic concerning warrants. B might get a warrant from a source different from any involvement in scientific theory with which it is incompatible. If so, the fact that B is unlikely concerning EBS-B document that S has the vita for B, in that B is unlikely concerning EBS-B together with the relevant A. So by way of illustrative example, you are on trial for some crime. The evidence against you is strong and you are convicted because that evidence against you is very strong. Nevertheless, you clearly remember that when the crime occurred, you were on a solitary walk in the woods. Your belief that you are walking in the woods isn't based on argument or inference from other propositions. You don't note, e.g., that you feel a little tired and that your walking shoes are muddy and that there is a map of the area in your pocket, concluding that the best explanation of this phenomenon is that you are walking there. So consider EBU-P, your evidence, based diminished concerning P. The proposition that you didn't commit the crime and were walking in the woods when it was committed. With no alibi, we don't have other person seeing you. You are the only one, so this will walk in the woods. Concerning EBU-P is epistemically improbable. After all, you have the same evidence as the jury for P, and the jury is quite properly, if mistakenly, convinced that you did that crime. Still, you don't have a defeater here for believing you are innocent. The reason, of course, is that P has for you a source of warrant independent of the rest of your beliefs. You remember it. In a case like this, whether you have a defeater for the belief P in question will depend, on the one hand, upon the strength of the intrinsic warrant enjoyed by P, and the other, the strength of the evidence against P. From EBU-P, often the intrinsic warrant will be the stronger. The same will go for religious beliefs. Without an intrinsic warrant, if S holds a religious belief, B, and if B has a warrant in basic way, then even if the probability of B on the EBS-B together with the relevant A is low, it won't follow that A is a defeater of B for S. So perhaps the reduction test offers a necessary condition of A being a defeater for B for S. It is also sufficient only if religious beliefs don't have warrants or positive epistemic status in the basic way, and only if they don't acquire warrant or positive epistemic status from a source other than those that confide that status on scientific beliefs. This is part of the purpose of the question that I noted in the above section 2. I noted that question. And that's why I'm saying why there's conflict. And that's one of the reasons why there's actually conflict between religion and science. I hope I've not bogged you down with those epistemic terminologies that I use here, but I need to explain this for us to see why there is a conflict between religion and science. Join me next Tuesday for another teaching. We are still continuing in religion and science when we learn more. Thank you. Have a very wonderful week.